When people ask me whether God exists, I often notice that they are not really asking a scientific question. They are asking a human question. They are asking a question born from grief, wonder, fear, love, death, beauty, injustice, and the simple fact that each of us wakes up inside a universe we did not create, do not fully understand, and cannot ultimately control. So before I answer, I try to understand the emotional landscape of the question. Because for many people, God is not just a claim about the universe. God is family, God is childhood, God is culture, God is comfort, God is the voice they heard when no one else was listening, God is the explanation that kept the darkness from feeling infinite. But science asks a different kind of question. Science does not ask what comforts us. Science asks what is true. And sometimes what is true is not comforting. Sometimes it is more magnificent than comfort. Sometimes it is more terrifying. Sometimes it is simply indifferent. So when someone says to me, "Do you believe in God?" I always want to pause on the word believe, because in science, belief is not the currency. Evidence is. I do not believe in gravity. I understand gravity as a measurable feature of the universe. I do not believe in bacteria. I can observe them through microscopes, study their DNA, measure their behavior, and test their effects. I do not believe in stars. I can analyze their light, determine their chemical composition, estimate their mass, and calculate their life cycles. The universe does not require my belief in order to operate. It does what it does, whether I approve of it or not. God, however, is different. God is usually presented as a being beyond measurement, beyond experiment, beyond detection, beyond falsification, and that creates a problem. Not necessarily a problem for faith, but a problem for science. Because if a claim cannot be tested, cannot be measured, cannot be falsified, and cannot be distinguished from a universe in which the claim is not true, then it is not a scientific claim. It may be a philosophical claim, it may be a theological claim, it may be a personal claim, but it is not science. This is where many conversations become confused. People will say, science has not explained everything, therefore God must exist. But that is not logic. That is what philosophers call the God of the gaps. You look at the places where science has not yet reached and you place God there. You say, we don't know how the universe began, therefore God. We don't know what happened before the Big Bang, therefore God. We don't know why consciousness exists, therefore God. We don't know why there is something rather than nothing, therefore God. But history teaches us to be careful with that move, because many things once attributed to divine action later became understood through natural law. Lightning was once the anger of gods. Disease was once punishment or possession. The motion of planets was once guided by divine intention. Comets were omens. Eclipses were warnings. Earthquakes were supernatural wrath. Every time science explained one of these phenomena, God retreated from that territory. If your God is defined only as the place where science has not yet explained something, then your God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. That is not an insult. It is a warning. Because if you place God only in the gaps of knowledge, you make God smaller every time knowledge grows. Now, some people will say, but what about before the Big Bang? And that is a fair question. The honest answer is, we do not know. But the phrase, we do not know, is one of the most powerful phrases in science. It is not a failure. It is an invitation. It is not an empty space waiting to be filled by whatever answer makes us feel better. It is a frontier. It is where inquiry begins. When I say we do not know what preceded the Big Bang, I am not saying, therefore nothing could have caused it. I am saying we do not yet possess a tested theory of cosmic origins that fully explains the earliest state of the universe. That is a statement of intellectual honesty. To leap from that honesty to certainty about God is not an argument, it is a preference. And preferences are not evidence. The Big Bang itself is often misunderstood. People imagine it as an explosion in space, as though all the galaxies were packed into a tiny bomb that detonated into an empty void. But that is not what the evidence suggests. The Big Bang describes the expansion of space itself from an extremely hot, dense state. Space did not expand into something. Space expanded. Time, space, matter, energy, all the ingredients of the observable universe emerged into the cosmic story we now study. We see the afterglow of that early universe in the cosmic microwave background. We measure the expansion of galaxies. We model the abundance of hydrogen, helium, and other light elements. The Big Bang is not a guess. It is a theory supported by multiple lines of evidence. But does the Big Bang disprove God? No. Science does not work that way. Science does not usually disprove unfalsifiable claims. What science does is remove the need to invoke supernatural explanations for natural phenomena. If someone says God created the universe through the Big Bang, science cannot test that unless the claim produces measurable consequences. But if someone says the Big Bang cannot be explained by physics, therefore God must have done it, then science can respond by saying that is not a conclusion, that is a surrender. There is a difference between humility before mystery and laziness before mystery. Humility says, I do not know, so let us investigate. Laziness says, I do not know, so I will stop asking. Science is organized curiosity. Faith, at its best, can also contain curiosity. The conflict begins when faith becomes certainty about the physical world without evidence, and then demands that everyone else stop asking questions. Consider evolution. For centuries, many people believed that life was created in fixed forms, each species separately designed. Then Darwin and Wallace helped reveal natural selection. Genetics later deepened that understanding. Fossils, comparative anatomy, molecular biology, embryology, and genome sequencing now tell a consistent story. Life on Earth evolved over billions of years through natural processes. This does not mean every religious person must abandon meaning. It means that if a religious claim says species did not evolve, that claim is wrong. Not because science hates religion, but because the evidence says otherwise. The universe is under no obligation to match our sacred texts. That sentence may sound harsh, but it is one of the keys to intellectual freedom. The cosmos existed long before humans wrote anything down. The laws of physics were operating before there were languages, nations, religions, temples, books, prophets, or philosophies. Stars were forming and dying before Earth existed. Galaxies were colliding before any creature looked up at the night sky and wondered who put the lights there. Reality came first. Our interpretations came later. And that matters, because throughout history, people have looked at the sky and projected meaning onto it. Ancient cultures placed gods in the heavens. They saw divine beings in thunder, fertility, storms, rivers, planets, and the Sunday. This is understandable. The sky is overwhelming. If you do not know what the sun is, but you know that without it your crops die and your children starve, of course you treat it as divine. If the moon controls tides and marks time, of course it becomes sacred. If planets wander against the background stars, of course you imagine they have purpose. Astrology, mythology, religion, and early astronomy all grew from the same human impulse to make sense of the sky. But modern science has shown us that the universe is not arranged around human meaning. The planets do not move to guide your romantic life. The stars do not align to decide your personality. Comets do not arrive to announce the fall of kings. Eclipses do not mean the gods are angry. They are natural events, governed by laws that can be understood, predicted, and mathematically described. Some people think this removes wonder. I think it multiplies wonder. Which is more magnificent? Believing that lightning is an angry god throwing bolts, or understanding that electrical charge separates inside a storm cloud until the air itself breaks down and a river of plasma connects sky and ground? Which is more astonishing? Thinking the sun is a divine lamp, or knowing it is a self-gravitating sphere of plasma fusing hydrogen into helium, releasing energy that travels across space and powers nearly all life on Earth? Which is more beautiful? Believing stars are decorative lights in a dome? Or knowing they are distant suns, many with worlds of their own, some perhaps with oceans, chemistry, and life? Science does not destroy wonder. Science reveals that reality is more wondrous than our myths. Now let us talk about the problem of evil, because this is where the logical conversation about God becomes especially difficult. Many religious traditions describe God as all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good. That combination is philosophically unstable when placed next to the world we actually observe. If God is all-powerful, then God can prevent unnecessary suffering. If God is all-knowing, then God knows about every instance of suffering before it occurs. If God is all-good, then God would want to prevent unnecessary suffering. Yet the world contains enormous suffering that appears unnecessary. Children get cancer. Earthquakes crush families. Tsunamis drown villages. Parasites blind people. Viruses kill millions. Animals are eaten alive in nature. Entire species go extinct through no moral failure of their own. So the question becomes, what kind of universe is this? Some will say suffering is caused by human free will, but that only explains a portion of suffering, and not even all of that. Human cruelty may explain war, violence, and oppression, but it does not explain childhood leukemia. It does not explain malaria. It does not explain a newborn born with a fatal genetic disease. It does not explain a deer slowly dying in a forest fire. It does not explain mass extinctions before humans existed. Natural suffering long predates human choice. So if God designed nature, then nature includes suffering by design. This is not an emotional argument. It is a logical tension. You can resolve it by changing one of the attributes. Perhaps God is powerful but not good. Perhaps God is good but not powerful. Perhaps God is neither. Perhaps God exists but does not intervene. Perhaps God is not a personal being. Perhaps the universe is not governed by moral intention at all. But the traditional idea of a God who is simultaneously all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly benevolent becomes difficult to reconcile with the universe we observe. And the universe we observe is the only universe we have access to. Some believers respond by saying God's ways are mysterious. That may be emotionally satisfying, but it is not an explanation. It is a shield against explanation. If any evidence against your claim can be dismissed as mystery, then your claim cannot be tested. And if your claim cannot be tested, then science has nothing to say about it except that it is outside the scientific method. But the logical problem remains. Imagine a parent who watches a child walk toward a fire. The parent knows the child will be burned. The parent has the power to stop it. The parent wants the child to be safe. If the parent does nothing, we would not call that love. We would call it neglect. Now multiply that by every preventable suffering in the world and ask whether the logic improves when applied to God. People sometimes accuse scientists of arrogance for asking these questions, but I would argue the opposite. It is humility to let the universe be what it is rather than forcing it to conform to what we wish it to be. I do not wake up in the morning trying to disprove God. That is not my profession. My profession is to understand the universe. If God is real and interacts with the physical world, then those interactions should in principle be detectable. If they are not detectable, then God may be personally meaningful to believers, but God becomes scientifically irrelevant. Science cannot build equations around what cannot be measured. Science cannot model what leaves no trace. Science cannot distinguish between an undetectable God and no God at all. This is why I often avoid labels like atheist. People want to put you in a box so they know whether to agree with you or fight you. But labels can end conversation. I prefer to ask, what do you claim? And what is your evidence? If you claim there is a God who answers prayers in measurable ways, then we can investigate. If you claim God created the universe but left no testable signature, then science cannot confirm or deny it. If you claim a scripture contains scientific truths, then we can compare those claims to evidence. If you claim religion gives your life meaning, then that is a personal statement, not a scientific one. These categories matter. Meaning is not the same as fact. Comfort is not the same as truth. Tradition is not the same as evidence. Intensity of belief is not the same as accuracy. One of the greatest dangers in human thought is mistaking confidence for knowledge. A person can be completely confident and completely wrong. History is full of confident people who were wrong about the motion of planets, the age of Earth, the causes of disease, the structure of matter, the nature of light, the origin of species, and the shape of galaxies. Confidence is easy. Knowledge is hard. Knowledge requires evidence, testing, correction, and humility. This is why science progresses. Science is not a set of final answers. Science is a method for reducing error. Scientists argue. Scientists challenge each other. Scientists publish results so others can test them. Scientists revise conclusions when new evidence demands it. The strength of science is not that scientists are never wrong. The strength of science is that science has built-in mechanisms for finding out when we are wrong. Religion in many cases works differently. It often begins with conclusions and protects them. Science begins with questions and exposes them to reality. That difference matters. Now, I am not saying religion has contributed nothing to civilization. Religious traditions have inspired art, music, architecture, charity, community, and moral reflection. Cathedrals, mosques, temples, chants, sacred texts, rituals, and philosophies are part of the human story. But religion has also been used to justify war, persecution, censorship, misogyny, slavery, and the suppression of scientific ideas. Human institutions are complicated. Religion is no exception. The question is not whether religious people can be good. Of course they can. The question is whether religion is a reliable method for discovering truths about the physical universe. And on that question, the answer is no. Different religions make incompatible claims. They cannot all be physically true. Many rely on revelation, authority, tradition, or scripture rather than reproducible evidence. If a method can lead different people to mutually exclusive conclusions with equal confidence, then it is not a reliable tool for discovering objective reality. Science is not perfect, but it is public, it is testable, it is self-correcting. It works whether you believe in it or not. Airplanes fly because aerodynamics works, not because passengers have faith. Antibiotics fight bacterial infections because chemistry and biology work, not because microbes respect doctrine. GPS functions because relativity is real, not because satellites accept a creed. Solar eclipses can be predicted centuries in advance because celestial mechanics works, not because priests interpret omens. The technology surrounding us is civilization's proof that science is not just another belief system. It is contact with reality. And this contact with reality has revealed something profound. We are not central. Earth is not the center of the solar system. The sun is not the center of the galaxy. The Milky Way is not the center of the universe. Humans are not separate from animals. Our bodies are not made of special divine material, but of atoms forged in stars. Our minds are not floating above biology. They emerge from brains shaped by evolution. Each scientific revolution has moved us farther from the center of the cosmic stage. And yet, paradoxically, each one has made the universe more meaningful. Because meaning does not require centrality. You do not need to be the center of the universe to matter. A child matters to a parent even though neither is cosmically central. A song matters even though it does not alter galactic motion. A life matters because conscious beings assign value, create relationships, reduce suffering, pursue knowledge, and experience wonder. We do not need the universe to be built for us in order for us to build meaning within it. This is where I think many people misunderstand the scientific worldview. They think that without God, life becomes empty. But if you understand the universe scientifically, life becomes almost unbearably precious. You are a temporary arrangement of atoms capable of love, thought, memory, imagination, and self-awareness. For a brief moment, the universe became conscious through you. You get to look at stars and know what they are. You get to hear music, taste food, ask questions, help others, and participate in the unfolding story of knowledge. Why would that be empty? If anything, the absence of guaranteed cosmic purpose makes our choices more urgent. If no divine being will fix the world for us, then we must fix what we can. If no supernatural rescue is guaranteed, then justice, compassion, and reason become human responsibilities. If this life is not merely a waiting room for another one, then reducing suffering here matters even more. Some say morality requires God. I do not see evidence for that. Humans are social animals. We evolved in groups. Cooperation, empathy, fairness, and reciprocity have deep roots in our biology and culture. Moral systems can be improved through reason, experience, and expanding circles of concern. In fact, many moral advances required humans to move beyond ancient religious texts, abolishing slavery, advancing women's rights, defending religious freedom, protecting children, respecting LGBTQ people, and recognizing universal human dignity often required reinterpretation of Scripture or rejection of old doctrines. Morality evolves because humans learn. If morality were simply delivered perfectly from above, we would expect believers to agree on moral truths across history. They have not. Religious communities have disagreed fiercely on slavery, war, monarchy, sexuality, gender, punishment, and freedom. This does not mean religious people are immoral. It means morality is a human project shaped by empathy, reason, power, culture, and experience. The scientific perspective asks us to take responsibility for that project. Now, let us return to the question. Is it logically impossible for God to exist? That depends entirely on how you define God. If God is defined as an abstract ground of being, or the laws of nature, or the mystery behind existence, then the word becomes so broad that it is hard to evaluate. But if God is defined as an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good personal being who intervenes in human affairs, answers prayers, performs miracles, writes books, suspends natural law, and cares deeply about human behavior, then the claim enters conflict with both evidence and logic. An all-powerful being should not need poor design. Yet nature is filled with inefficient design. The human body has features that make sense through evolution, but not through perfect engineering. We breathe and eat through crossing pathways, allowing choking. Our backs are prone to failure because we are modified quadrupeds walking upright. Our eyes have blind spots. Our wisdom teeth often cause problems. Our reproductive system is dangerous. Our immune system sometimes attacks us. These are not the signatures of perfect design. They are the signatures of evolutionary history. Evolution explains imperfection beautifully. Perfect design does not. An all-good designer would also be difficult to reconcile with a biosphere built on predation, disease, parasitism, and extinction. Nature is not gentle. Nature is creative, yes. Beautiful, yes, but also brutal. The same evolutionary processes that gave us flowers, birdsong, intelligence, and human love also gave us cancer, parasites, venom, starvation, and mass death. If you want to call that design, you must ask what kind of designer chooses such tools. Science does not need to answer that theological question. It simply observes that natural processes explain what we see without invoking intention. Some believers say God created evolution. That is compatible with some forms of faith, but scientifically unnecessary. Natural selection does not require divine guidance to produce complexity. Given variation, inheritance, competition, environment, and time, complexity emerges. Not because evolution aims at humans, but because life explores possibilities through reproduction and selection. We are not the inevitable goal of evolution. We are one branch on a vast tree of life. That idea can be humbling, but also liberating. We are kin to every living thing on Earth. The DNA in our cells connects us to bacteria, trees, fungi, whales, insects, and ancient organisms that lived billions of years ago. Religion often tells us we are special because we are separate. Science tells us we are special because we are connected. I find that far more powerful. The universe, as revealed by science, is not a small stage built for one species. It is a vast, ancient, dynamic reality filled with galaxies, black holes, nebulae, planets, dark matter, dark energy, and unanswered questions. Our lives are brief, but our curiosity reaches across billions of light years. Our bodies are fragile, but our minds can understand stellar evolution. Our planet is small, but our equations describe the motion of worlds. That is a kind of transcendence, not supernatural transcendence, natural transcendence. The kind that comes from recognizing that the atoms in your body were cooked in stars, that the iron in your blood was forged in stellar explosions, that the calcium in your bones came from ancient cosmic processes, and that every breath you take participates in planetary chemistry. You are not a fallen creature trapped in matter. You are matter awakened. And matter awakened can ask astonishing questions. What was the first moment? Are there other universes? Does time have a beginning? What is consciousness? Are we alone? What happens inside black holes? Why is there something rather than nothing? These are not small questions. They are worthy of awe, but awe should sharpen the mind, not replace it. If you want to believe in God, that is your freedom. But do not use God as a plug for ignorance. Do not use God to stop children from learning evolution. Do not use God to deny climate science. Do not use God to reject medicine. Do not use God to persecute people. Do not use God to make curiosity a sin. A God who fears questions is indistinguishable from human insecurity. The universe is not offended by investigation. If there is a God who created the cosmos, then studying the cosmos should be an act of reverence. Every telescope would be a cathedral. Every laboratory would be a chapel. Every equation would be a prayer written in mathematics. But if your religion tells you not to look, not to ask, not to doubt, not to test, then it is not protecting God. It is protecting itself. And truth does not need protection from questions. This is why I defend scientific literacy so strongly. A scientifically literate person is not someone who has memorized every fact. A scientifically literate person knows how to think. They know how to ask. How do we know this? They know the difference between evidence and assertion. They know that personal experience can be misleading. They know that the human brain is vulnerable to pattern seeking, confirmation bias, tribal loyalty, fear, and wishful thinking. They know that reality must be checked against measurement. Without scientific literacy, people become vulnerable to everything. Conspiracy theories, miracle cures, fake prophecies, pseudoscience, astrology, anti-vaccine misinformation, climate denial, and claims of divine certainty from people seeking power. The world does not need fewer questions. It needs better questions. So when someone asks, can science prove God does not exist? I say the better question is, what exactly are you claiming, and what evidence would distinguish your claim from imagination? If the answer is nothing, then science cannot help you. If the answer is something, then let us test it. That is the boundary. And beyond that boundary, we can still talk as humans. We can talk about meaning, grief, beauty, love, death, purpose, and the strange experience of being conscious in a universe that did not ask our permission to exist. We can talk about why music moves us, why the night sky humbles us, why mortality frightens us, and why kindness matters. Science does not eliminate these conversations. Science enriches them by grounding them in reality. Because reality is enough. Reality gives us stars. Reality gives us oceans. Reality gives us evolution, consciousness, memory, mathematics, galaxies, and the capacity to love people we know we will one day lose. Reality gives us one another. Reality gives us a brief window of awareness between birth and death. And in that window, we can learn, create, heal, explore, and wonder. I do not need the universe to be supervised in order for it to be sacred. The sacred for me is not a supernatural category. It is the feeling that arises when the mind encounters something vast, true, and beautiful. A nebula can be sacred. A child asking their first question about the moon can be sacred. A scientist admitting uncertainty can be sacred. A dying star creating the elements of life can be sacred. The courage to follow evidence wherever it leads can be sacred. So perhaps the most important question is not whether God exists. Perhaps the most important question is what kind of thinker you become while asking. Do you become more curious or less? More humble or more certain? More compassionate or more judgmental? More open to evidence or more afraid of it? Does your belief expand your humanity or shrink it? Does it make you protect ignorance or pursue truth? Because whatever you believe about God, the universe remains, the stars remain, the evidence remains, the questions remain. And we are here for a little while with minds capable of asking them. That is miracle enough for me.